my heart physically hurt so much. I was getting worried that I was going to have a heart attack or, die of some overstressing of my heart. And I'm not kidding. You actually can die of a broken heart. I'm Silver the Rogue Yogi, a born clairvoyant, near-death experiencer, and women's spiritual coach. Forgiveness gets a very confusing rap. I wouldn't say gets a bad rap because a lot of us who are intentionally on a spiritual journey, we have heard well enough that forgiveness is a good goal. But it's freaking messy and it's hard and it's really painful. And I think that's why it gets such a confusing rap, because I've yet to hear somebody talk about both the practical steps, how to get there, and also what to expect emotionally. And also what to expect as you go along through the process. So let's start here. There's the stupidest phrase, I don't know, it's always bugged me, but you're cutting off your nose to spite your face. And I honestly never knew what that meant when I was little. Probably none of us did. But when I was older, somebody explained not forgiving as the same thing as drinking a poison that you really intend for someone else. So it kind of is like that same thing. If I'm holding on to resentment to you, I'm the one who's being eaten away by poison, and you're just living your life. It has no effect, and if it did have an effect, I wouldn't want to be responsible for that either. But the main thing is, we have all known some kind of betrayal or heartbreak, or both, or many. And we all know what it's like to be crippled, fetus style, on the kitchen floor, crying at 2 a.m. because the kids are in bed and they won't hear you. And that is the pain of being hurt. I actually Googled, can you die of a broken heart? And I Googled that because my heart physically hurt so much. I was getting worried that I was going to have a heart attack or, die of some overstressing of my heart. And I'm not kidding. You actually can die of a broken heart. Because seriously, it feels like my heart is about to give out from the pressure and the pain. And there's many different kinds of ways we end up hurt. And usually it is due to the actions of someone else or more than one person. But the reason it's such a game changer is because when you reach that point of forgiveness, it changes your entire life. It does not remain categorically focused on that one person. Our emotions are always banging into each other. They're always conflicting. They're always getting dialed up, getting dialed down. We're always getting things proven and then disproven. It's like an emotional kind of moving kaleidoscope in here. And we like to try to think of things as shoeboxed and categorized. But when something happens that takes you down to the bone, where it's like your soul and God, that pain you're feeling has already washed over the entire landscape of your life. You can't be, as like a human being, living in such pain and resentment without it taking over the entirety of your life. So one thing I want to say straight up is the actions don't care why you take them. So if you're somebody who is struggling right now, I just want you to hear me. If for no other reason than this, once you reach forgiveness, it's like you were wearing sunglasses inside, and when you reach forgiveness, that grace switches those sunglasses out and puts on regular clear glasses, and you can see everything again, and you can see it as it really is. The real color of it, the real depth, all that. It washes over your life for the better. And that doesn't just benefit you. Such a deep change also ripples out to affect everybody you love in your life, who you would want to give your best self to, but you may not realize it, but no one's able to give anyone their best if they are crippled by heartbreak, betrayal, and resentment. So, a couple things. One, I want you to take the thing you're suffering about and play the tape forward. What would this look like if I let this go unchecked? And let's say you had a terrible divorce and you imagine it and you're like, let's see, in 5 years, I'm going to be like a shrill man-hater. I don't want that. Take whatever it is that you had every single feeling of yours broken by and amplify it over 5 years and really try to envision that version of yourself. It's really not going to be someone that you even recognize at this point. If this is a fresh wound, for example, you want to seize it right away. And the most important thing to do is in no way, shape, or form try to seize it alone. It won't work. We are merely humans, and emotions really are the educational tools of planet Earth. So you got to know going in, your reconciling has to be you and a higher power. And let's say we take the divorce example. Just put it out there. And again, I know you guys can take whatever rings true to you and then leave everything else. So I'm just going to talk to you like I would like my best friends and say it. If you're in this divorce, tell whatever, your name is for God, source, universe, whatever it is, Allah. I'm just going to say God because that's my habit, but I don't believe, by the way, I don't believe in a God that's like a middle-aged white man with a beard and like muscles and who's really mean. I don't personally believe in that kind of a God, but I do just sometimes say the word so it's easier to understand. But take your divorce. Right away, you've got to know I do not have the power alone to release this. I don't. Like, I'm crying on the kitchen floor at 2 a.m. After my divorce, I wanted to drink again. It was so bad. And I'll tell you, what I said, I was like, God, please, I'm really scared. We're not going to be able to get there because I honestly was. That's how shattered I was. I was actually scared that even as a team with God, it wasn't going to be possible. I said, but I cannot end up bitter. I do not want to be that woman. I don't want to be, I had always known I had a good and a big heart. And it's gotten me in a lot of trouble. But all in all, it's something I want to hang on to. I'd rather be a little bit over trusting than closed down and bitter and, for example, offing like the male gender. Because honestly, most of my friends have been guys. And now that's a little different because we're older, but you know what I mean. I don't want to change who I am. And at that level of pain, I was really in danger of changing who I was. I easily could have drank, and I had been sober for 20 years. If that had happened, I would have lost my kids. I would have had nothing. And at the same time, it was so bad, I really thought quietly, I didn't say this, but I quietly was assuming it was impossible to reach forgiveness. But I just told God straight up, I cannot end up like this, God. Right away, I was like, you have got to help me. Please help me with forgiveness. And then my friend at the time said something that was really helpful and that you can take, and really this applies to so many things. But I remember she was like, you can't see how forgiveness is going to happen. You can't see how it's going to come together because you've never been in this spot before. So why would you think that you would be able to be like, oh, I see how God's going to handle this or how it's going to work out? Like, I had never been in that spot. I'd never worked with God through something like that. So I didn't have a clue. So you may not have a clue and be like me and be like, there's no way. I cannot even stretch my imagination to think this is possible. You just have to shove that away. You know it, and then be like, thank you, I need to ignore you now, and go back to praying. And when I say praying, I'm not talking about reciting things with words like and thy and master and thou. Those kind of prayers, they don't resonate with me. What does is when I talk to God and my higher self and my guides, just like I would somebody with skin on them who unconditionally loves me. I just talk. I will talk to them on the toilet. And that's what I did. This is not necessary at all. But in the moment, it felt like it. I begged as close to all the time I was awake as possible. I had to get it together because very early on, and I'm really grateful for this, we were told that our one son had gone nonverbal. He was very young. My kids were like 2 and 3 or 2 and 3. And hearing that, it was like, honestly, I felt absolutely terrible, but it got me awake and aware and able to control myself in a way I had not been able to around my children. And again, I know there's no coincidences. And I think I had to hear that because I could not seem to control myself. I really couldn't. And that's why I was like, I really doubt that I can get this done with God. But I just kept going. If those prayers, they're not real, but the ones in the Bible that are printed out and they have archaic language, if those prayers really resonate with you, then please use them. But for anyone who is not, I don't affiliate with a religion. I affiliate with, and I don't even call it God, but I affiliate with God. So you don't need to entreat any kind of middleman. You don't need to rely on the rituals of any religion, or you totally can. But this is what I do know. Religion or no religion, church or synagogue or the temple once or twice or 3 times a week is not going to be enough. So you are going to have to, in my experience, directly implement a conversation with your higher power. You can't kidnap your rabbi or your priest and bring them home with you. There are so many hours in a day, and this is going to be top tier, level 1. So in addition to or in place of praying 24/7, and by that I mean talking and asking for help. And whatever it is you say is perfect. Because remember, you're not dealing with fallible people. You're dealing with, I don't even know how to put into words, but these consciousnesses, my God, I really don't even know if that's the plural, I'm sorry, but that are infinite and God adjacent and God, where you are going to be met with unconditional love and no begging needed. It is their joy to be asked for help. The most common thing I ever hear when I'm doing a session with a woman is her guides or her higher self will be like, please tell her to ask for more help. Number one thing. That is the one thing that happens in 85% of the sessions I do. And I have learned myself, they really mean it, because I will be asking for help every minute. There have been 2 times in my life where for months I knew I was dying. And God had specifically told me what to do. Specifically. And I was doing it, I thought, to the best of my ability. because it was communicated. No, you don't understand. You have to do this. Your life depends on it, because it does. And I thought I was. But then one day, literally right here, I was watching TV and Judy Garland popped on my couch. I'd never talked to her before. I didn't know if we had any relationship. I was just very shocked. I was so happy. But she literally just popped right here and was like, "You are not Golden King. Your life depends on it." And when I say that, it was so loving. I know it sounded like, but it was like, and I asked her a few questions and then that was that. But it was like, she probably saved my life. Because when I was looking back to how I was praying, I was a lot of times not even aware that when I would have a thought about this situation, I actually would entertain it for longer than I thought. Longer than just beyond recognizing it and praying. You know what I'm saying? She helped me see that. I thought I was doing that, but really I wasn't. I was still feeding it too much. I was still giving too much of my energy and my thoughts to it. So that is the most basic instruction. And I know it sounds basic, but there's nothing more fundamentally ironclad than God. And I know right away some of you guys will be like, well then why do we get hurt in the first place and why that happened? And I don't know the answers to everything at all, but I do know from being inside that consciousness during my near-death experience, when it looked like I was floating in these blazing rays, I know there is nothing. I could feel what God was made of. And there was nothing except, I don't even want to say the word love because it's been so diluted and distorted and conditional down here, but it was a kind of feeling I had never even come close to experiencing in my life. And that is what, I promise you, like everything, like my name, everything, like that, I could feel what God was made of. And that is what you can trust. The last thing is, and to be honest, it's a little bit crappy. We don't know how long it's going to take. It seems fair because the reality is it is our job to stay vigilant and not entertain the resentment and be just praying for help all the time. So this is us over here doing those things. And then over here, God and our higher selves and our guides are working with us. But you never know how that journey from here to forgiveness is going to go. I'll give you a crappy example, and then I'll give you a really good one. Crappy example was one time, this was actually for my divorce. Nothing budged. Nothing. I was literally in the same shredded bullets. I was literally at the same level of like, I can't live with this pain as I was from when it happened and everything happened, praying 24/7. I then had to start, I had to be honest. So I was like doing that, but at the same time, after 6 months of nothing, I started getting really mad. I was like, God, what are you doing? What else can I do? Like, I really don't even know what else I can do. And there's not even a modicum of relief. I didn't know what to do. So I just kept doing what I was doing. And simultaneously being really pissed at God. And I had no relief. There was no gradual lessening of anything. And then one night I was with my friends and it was 10 months out and it was like somebody flipped on the lights and that bear trap pain it's like trap opened like this. And I was not doubled over psychically and mentally and emotionally all the time. So in that case, I had nothing, flatlined until 10 months. And then to reach the point of compassion took 4 years. But that made sense to me. It was that, I hear that and I'm like, it makes sense. But the 10-month thing to get any relief pissed me off. other story, I knew I was going to die. And in this case, God was like, give me 60 days. And I was like, why can't I just get an answer like that every time? What's up? And I did what I was supposed to do. And I kept getting worse every day. And I was getting worried. And the last week, I was like, God, you're going to have to pull an elephant out of my ass at this point. And then with 4 days to spare, God pulled an elephant out of my ass. But I kept praying. And weirdly, I kept getting worse day by day. Every day it got worse. And it got to the point where a week out, I was like, God, at this point, you are now going to have to pull an elephant out of my ass. But I'd known from working with God on really hard things before, I did know. I was like, and he's going to pull an elephant out of my ass. I can't imagine how. And I was scared because we were 1 week to go. And it was like the other time. I can't imagine how I was, at this point, I was almost sleeping all the time. My parents were totally taking care of my kids. But then, with 4 days to spare, he pulled the biggest elephant out of my ass that ever was and saved my life. We really are all here for so many purposes. And this is what Wayne Dyer used to say. We don't have one purpose. We all come down with a bunch of purposes, and then certain decisions activate certain ones, right? And we have multiple. But Wayne Dyer used to always say, and I really believe this, because I believe emotional mastery is the real reason to incarnate on earth. And he used to say that we all do share the same soul purpose beyond all the others we each have. We all share the same soul purpose of basically emotional mastery, of learning how to interact and respond and regulate so that our learning tool, the spectrum of insane emotions we have down here, they're not driving the truck. We are. And that journey is a hell of a journey. It's really, I've never seen anyone who's interested in this kind of stuff and spirituality and trying to tap into that. I've never seen it be a really easy and quick journey for anyone. I've seen things happen that are like, boom, and they happen. But with my one story, that I had my first big relief suddenly after the divorce, but it was 10 months after. And then it was suddenly I had relief. So just keep that in mind, please. And I'll just say this. I know people always say this. They're like, it's not condoning what happened. And I would say one of my character struggles that I have is this, I jokingly call it, it's not Pharaoh-meter. And that's how I would feel. I'd be like, when the situation is because of another person versus health situation, for example, it's not fair. They just get like, they're fine. And that's very human. It's totally okay to feel that way. So long as you take the opposite action anyway. I was really pissed at God during those 10 months because there was no budging, but I was still praying and continually asking for help at the same time. So please don't beat yourself up about what emotions might come up. We know, humans know more than any other being how wild and hypocritical and clashing and disparate our emotions can be. And that's why our journey to emotional mastery is so tricky, but so well worth it. And I love you guys, and I hope this helped. And any women who are interested, I'd love to work with you on Patreon or a session. Keep that in mind, and I'll meet you in the next one.